Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be struggling with my purpose in life. This is something that I think pretty much every man struggles with, because the reality is you're not going to stay positive all the time. You're not always going to feel like things are going to work out in your favor. You're not always going to feel like you're doing the right thing. Some days are going to be really great, and you're going to be full of passion and feel inspired. And other days, it's going to feel hopeless and like things aren't working out, and you're just a ridiculous, hopeless dreamer. Especially if you got people chirping in your ear in your life telling you what a stupid idea that you've embarked on, or that business you want to build, or that career you want to have is just unrealistic for you. So I've got an email here from a guy who knows what he wants. He's figured out what his purpose is, but he has plenty of days where he's just sure whether or not he's got the ability to pull it off. So I got a quote that I wrote on this particular topic, and I'm going to go through his email, because lately I've been doing a lot of, I'd say majority of my phone sessions I've been having lately are guys that either trying to figure out what their purpose is, they know what their purpose is, but they're struggling, or they're already working in something that they love and they've kind of hit the wall, and they're starting to wonder whether or not they should just completely go and do everything else, maybe sell their business and start something completely new, or how to transition out of it. And if you've read my second book, Mastering Yourself, which you can read for free at understandingrelationships.com, all you got to do is subscribe to the email newsletter. I lay out in there the path that I went through and continue to go through over the course of my life, because one thing that's always been consistent with me is learning to listen to my heart, my curiosity, my intuition, and what feels right. So in other words, if I'm when I was younger and I was working a job and I feel like I'd kind of learned everything I could learn and gained all the wisdom and knowledge I could gain, I was looking for the bigger, better deal. In other words, a new company, a new place to go work for, where I could be challenged and feel like I was continuing my evolution, and like I was continuing to grow my reserve of knowledge, develop my skills, my gifts, my talents, so I could continue to get to the next level. Because the average person, when they recognize that they're not happy, or they don't have the same internal enthusiasm that they once did for their job, they don't really do anything about it. They may go and complain to their spouse, their significant other, or their friends, yet they really never do anything to change their trajectory in life. And it really is an art more than a science or a switch that you flip. Because the reality is most great things take a minimum of a decade or more. And the average person, maybe if they stick with it on the long term, they're going to stick with something maybe 2 to 3 years. And then when it doesn't give them the success they want, they just give up. And the danger that you run when you have something that you just quit and you give up on is that you never really take any more risks beyond that as you get older, because you look back at that one time that you failed and you just think that that's the way it's always going to be for you. But the reality is most, if not all, successful people will tell you it really boils down to persistence, sticking with things way longer than the average person is. Most people simply aren't willing to do it. You don't believe me? Look at how many people do you know in your life that decide on January 1st they're going to lose weight, they're going to go to the gym, and they're going to get in shape. And then within a week or two, even if they went and joined the gym, they're not going to the gym, they're back eating the same kind of crappy diet they were eating before, and they've got their story that justifies continuing to do the same thing, and they just never really follow through with it. It's hard when you're surrounded by most of the people that you're going to encounter in life are living lives that are less than they're capable of. It's hard not to want to settle and be just like them, because they're also trying to get you to settle, because then it justifies their model of the world. It justifies how they're showing up in life. So I got this quote that I wrote that kind of encapsulates the wisdom and the mindset that we're going to go through this guy. He's got a pretty short email of kind of where he's kind of running into difficulty and how he's struggling just day in and day out to continue moving forward, continue taking action, and not being overwhelmed to the point where he's like, fuck it, it's just hopeless, I'm never going to get to where I want to be. So the quote says, your purpose is always changing and evolving as you experience the seasons of your life. Sometimes we accomplish our dreams sooner than we thought possible. Other times it will look and feel hopeless, and like success is an unrealistic fantasy that will never be realized. Success is a process. It's a commitment to something you have a burning desire to acquire, experience, or achieve. Knowing what you want and why you want it, and then developing a plan to make it a reality. Filling in your knowledge gaps, developing your gifts, skills, and talents, learning from your mistakes, being ready to examine your reasoning and thinking, and persisting without exception until you make it your reality. All humans fear that they don't have what it takes to succeed, and that they won't be loved and accepted by their friends, family, or peer group. However, successful people simply never give up and are quick to change their approach when it's not working, but slow to change their minds about what they really want because they're so passionate about it. Success is a process that never ends until your life is over. Make your process about mastering and winning at something that really sets your soul on fire. So this really, it's not, it's just like I talked to people. I had a client I was talking with yesterday his weight's been kind of a yo-yo up and down over the years. He commits to a diet for a while, loses weight, then goes back to eating the same way he was eating before. Then he gains the weight back, and sometimes even more than he had originally when he started. And what I went through with him is, it's really, if you're going to be healthy, you're going to work out, you're going to exercise, you're going to have a good clean diet, it's a lifestyle. It's a permanent lifestyle change. It's a commitment to put foods in your body that nourish it, not by putting sugary junk and crap into it because it makes you feel better when you consume it, but it makes you look like shit. You have to consistently stick with it week in, week out, month after month, year after year. It's not like you're going on a diet to succeed, and then once you've succeeded, then the work is over. It's the same thing with your purpose. Your purpose is always growing and evolving. If you've read what I discussed in Mastering Yourself, you'd see that I'm always looking for the next level. I'm always looking for the new challenge, new skills, new talents that I can develop, new knowledge that I can acquire to make myself better. And as we grow and we gain life experience, we develop our talents. Those different talents and skills and the reserve of knowledge add up to, like what Scott Adams calls, our talent stack. You don't have to be exceptional at everything, but when you're good at a lot of different things and the way those things stack up, it gives you the ability to be more exceptional at that particular task, job, or product manufacturing than anybody that you may be competing against. So it's a process. It's a commitment. Like for me, it's not like I achieved my purpose. I'm living my purpose, and my purpose is continuing to evolve. Because the reality is, once you finally achieve what it is that you want, say you got a business that you want to start, and after 10, 15 years, you grow that business to be very successful, but you're no longer really excited about it, but you got a really nice sizable income, which a lot of the guys that I talk to that are in that position, they get to a point in a plateau and they don't have the same internal enthusiasm for it that they once did, and they mistakenly assume, well, they should just get out of the business. And oftentimes after going through them in my phone sessions and asking them questions, there's things that they really love and enjoy about their business, but they've also filled it up with so many things that they don't, and they got something else that they'd really like to sink their teeth into, but they've got this business and this commitment that they've been doing 10, 15, 20 years, and it pays all the bills and it gives them a comfortable lifestyle. So what they often end up doing is hiring managers and people that are great at maintaining systems and have a track record of doing that, so they can delegate away the running of the day-to-day operations of the business and then focus on just kind of being the chairman of the board or the CEO of the company, while they take the excess cash flow that they've got and continuing to put it in their investments, but also setting some aside every month so they can, in essence, throw shit against the wall, try out new advertising, start a website, beta test a product, or open a location. It gives them capital that they can continually invest, and since they've maintained their successful business, they're not going to get stressed out. Whereas if they just go and sell their business and they just get a big lump sum of cash, now they're living off their savings. And so what happened, because I've had this experience, what happens is you notice your bank account shrinks every month. And so you feel pressure. Every time you spend money on your business that's not making you money, your bank account gets smaller. Every time you pay your normal monthly expenses, your bank account gets smaller. And if you've been a lifelong entrepreneur like I have, the thought of having to go back potentially and work for somebody else is going to add some unpleasant stress. And the reality is we make our best decisions when we're in a peaceful and relaxed state. So what's actually going to be more conducive to your new venture succeeding and remaining in a peaceful and relaxed state is just finding the right people to run your existing business so it continues to earn the profits that you're used to, continues to grow, and gives you the capital and resources you need to fund your new venture that may take a year, 2, 5, or even 10 years to make it a success. So the most stable way to, in those particular cases, is to keep the business that they have, hire the right people to delegate away the things that are no longer enjoyable to them, people that have a passion for those things that they don't like doing, and that enables you to focus stress-free on the new thing you want. If you're in an existing job and you're thinking maybe you want to move to a different part of the country or you want a different job, you don't just up and quit your job and move and hope you find something once you arrive. It's much smarter and wiser to continue working the job that's paying your bills so you can stay peaceful and relaxed and take your time and find the right opportunity. And then you can interview, you can do video interviews with people. Maybe on the weekend you go fly out there and interview with the higher ups. You get your offer letter where they offer you your salary, because you're going to be a much better negotiator if you already have an existing job versus you are running out of cash because you haven't worked in a couple months and you're desperate for a job so you can pay your bills. If you already have a good job that's paying your bills and you look for something better on the side that's going to pay you more money and it's going to enable you to go live where you actually want to live, which will make you happier because now you're living a lifestyle and a social life and in an area of the world that you want to live in that's fun, exciting, and compelling. It's going to make you happier. And if you're happier, you'll be more attractive to members of the opposite sex. So you want to do it in a balanced and relaxed way instead of just ripping the Band-Aid off, so to speak, and hoping everything works out. I've done both approaches, and at 50 years old, it's much nicer to slowly transition out of things versus going cold turkey, because the reality is you simply don't know what you don't know. You don't know how long your new venture, your new career, your new business is going to take to get to the point where it can sustain you. The idea is that anything that's going to add peace and ease and delight to your life, you want to maintain that at all costs, because you're going to make your best decisions when you're not stressed about money. So you don't want to do things, whether it's in business or when you're working for other people, that are going to put you into a financial bind, because that's just going to cause you to make worse, less resourceful decisions going forward, and it will take you longer ultimately to get from where you are to where you want to be. So with that said, let's go through this guy's email and see where he's struggling. He says, "Hey Corey, I hope you're doing well. I'm familiar with your work and I really enjoy your content. Right now, I'm struggling with my purpose and would like to hear your thoughts. My goal is to become a fighter pilot. This is a very difficult barrier for me to break through because of my own mental limitations. Similar to your article on how to overcome your inner demons, I find my brain is flooded with negative thoughts such as, I can't do it and I'm not good enough. No matter how hard I would try, I will always fail. I will always settle for mediocrity, etc. So like I talked about in the quote that I read earlier in the video, is that human beings, we all have two primary fears. That's number one fear is fear that we don't have what it takes. We're not enough. We're not smart enough. We're not wise enough. We're not young enough, old enough, experienced enough, have enough money, whatever it happens to be, to succeed at what we want. This is common amongst all humans. And the second primary fear is that we won't be loved and accepted by our friends, family, or peer group. So this is something we all struggle with, and obviously just the things he's telling himself, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, no matter how hard I try, I will always fail, I will always settle for mediocrity, etc. Those are pretty common themes. And those thoughts, I've had thoughts like that countless times over the course of my life. I still have big, audacious goals and things I want to accomplish in the future. And yeah, there's plenty of days where I get up and go, there's no fucking way, I'll never be able to pull that off. But the one thing I always do is I keep grinding. I keep taking action no matter what. Because the reality is that if you're busy taking action to move yourself forward, if you're doing all the action steps that you need to do in order to move you forward, you're going to feel better versus being fearful and just sitting on your ass doing nothing, eating junk food, playing video games, watching Netflix, not going to the gym, whatever it happens to be. If you just sit idle and do nothing, you're going to feel worse. If you start taking action, as a matter of fact, when you feel scared and you feel fearful, the best thing you can do is crack open a book, go to that website that you're gaining lots of wisdom from, go take a class, go to the gym, sit down and do some work that you've been putting off, whatever it happens to be. If you get busy taking action to move yourself from where you are to where you want to be, you're going to feel better. And you'll end up forgetting about the fact that you were scared and fearful and afraid it wasn't going to work out. Then after several hours of work, or maybe a full day's worth of work, you get home, you're going to feel a sense of accomplishment because you took action to move yourself forward versus just sitting on your ass and playing some video games or watching Netflix. Every day we are faced with that choice. You take action to move your life forward, or you do nothing and you stay stuck where you are. The reality is your life is zipping by. The amount of time you got left to live is shrinking. And the amount of days that you've been on this planet is increasing. So the reality is we're all running out of time. Some of us faster than others. That's just reality. So the question is, what are you willing to go to your grave having not done or said or attempted? You're going to end up somewhere in the future. And what you do today and tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that is going to determine where you end up. But I promise you, if you continue to do nothing and you avoid things, you're going to end up somewhere in the future where you don't want to be. And it'll be much more rewarding and much more exciting and much more compelling to look around as you age and go through your life and start to see little signs that all those little things you've been doing day in and day out are inch by inch, millimeter by millimeter, getting you closer to where you want to be. Because like Wayne Dyer said, it's never crowded along the extra mile. Most people have given up. And so it gets kind of lonely when you're on that road of success and you're trying to achieve the things that you want to, especially if you got your friends, your family, or your peer group that's not really that supportive and doesn't believe that you can do it. However, once you do succeed and you do have that the reality and the evidence in your life that other people in your life can see, it gives them a little bit more confidence to strike out on their own and go for the things that they want. So not only are you helping yourself, but you're helping those around you, because once they see that you can do it, it gives them a little more confidence that they can do it as well, just because they know you and they saw what you went through. He says, in addition, the fear of putting myself in physical danger in a risky profession such as this is also holding me back. Tony Robbins says that when there's no fear, you are grateful, and the external environment doesn't matter when you have an internal state of peace. Well, like I was saying earlier, the internal state of peace comes from taking action and doing something. You feel fearful when you're doing nothing. So if you're afraid, You need to move your ass and take action. There are days when I have the confidence to make this dream a reality, and others when my insecurities and negative self-talk force me to search for another purpose. Well, here's the reality. I mean, if you're going to become a fighter pilot, there's a finite amount of days that you're actually going to be a fighter pilot, because there's going to come say you eventually become one. Maybe it's 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is. I mean, you're not going to stay a fighter pilot forever. Someday you're going to get too old to do that. Someday you may wake up having spent 10 years as a fighter pilot thinking it's the best job in the world, and you just don't have the internal enthusiasm for it. So another thing you should be thinking about is, what are you going to do after you've been a fighter pilot? How are you going to use those gifts, those skills, those talents that you developed as a fighter pilot, and continue to add those to your talent stack? Because a lot of guys that have left the military in the last few years, it's a real problem that are pilots, are leaving because they're sitting around doing paperwork and not flying. And that was the whole reason they became a pilot, was because they wanted to fly. And so the Air Force and the different branches of the military have done things to try to retain these pilots, because they invest a tremendous amount of money and resources to train them and get them competent and get them combat experienced. And so they don't want to lose them, which makes sense. But you also got to be thinking, someday you're going to no longer want to be a fighter pilot. And so what is the natural career trajectory? In other words, what have other fighter pilots done once they left the service? Many of them become commercial airline pilots and other things. So the question is, what's next? So you kind of want to think about those things. It's just like when you start a business. You want to build a business so you can ultimately one day sell it. Because maybe you get to a point in life where you decide you want to retire, maybe you want to leave it to your kids and family, or maybe they have no interest in it and you want to be able to sell it and get maximum value for it. So you always want to be thinking from the end. What are you going to do after the fact? And so obviously what would be helpful to you is probably to sit down with some guys that have been fighter pilots and find out what they do after they leave the military, what kinds of careers they go into, and what they did or what they do now with the knowledge and information they acquired as a fighter pilot. How are they using that to earn themselves a living after they've left the military service? These are all things you need to know. The thought of being a fighter pilot fills my heart with excitement and overwhelms me with emotion, like you talk about in your article, How to Find Your Purpose. You have a very good understanding of emotional ownership and strength. What kinds of techniques do you do to keep yourself centered, focused, and confident in your mission? Any wisdom is appreciated. Well, I would definitely recommend reading Mastering Yourself, but the one thing that's always stuck with me for the last almost 30 years that I've been using this, and this was something that I learned from Tony Robbins, and that goes all the way back to Aristotle, which is that people do more to avoid pain than they'll do to gain pleasure. And so whether it's working out or eating healthy versus eating junk food, I always think about, what are the painful consequences if I don't do what I know I need to do right now? And what is the pleasure I'm going to experience if I do take the action I know I need to take right now? How much better am I going to feel about myself? What is this going to do to move my life forward 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? And so I do this little mental gymnastic exercise whenever I have something to do that I don't feel like doing, but I know I need to do it because it's a big part of my ultimate large goals. Just like sitting down and doing this video. Luckily, there's no grinding and hammering going on, but right before, in the last hour before I sat down to do it, I was thinking I'm not going to be able to do this video today because all the fucking grinding and hammering and drilling that's been going on in my building. But I waited a bit, and they stopped for a bit, and I'm able to get this video done. And so again, it's like that was probably one of the biggest life-changing things for me, was just learning how to associate pain with not taking action and pleasure with taking action. Think about what the benefits are, and because that's what's going to move you forward And the reality is, it's like, I feel the same way you do. I mean, all those thoughts, I still feel those still pop in my head on a daily basis. And the reality is, I just keep moving forward. I just keep grinding. Like Ray Lewis says, grinding is my rest. Even when I don't feel like it. I mean, the other night, in the last couple of weeks, I've been doing a lot of videos, a lot of interviews, which you guys have been seeing. And I was up the other night till 3 in the morning editing these because I really got in the flow and I was really enjoying it. And I put off running, and I needed to run a couple miles that day. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I hopped on my fucking treadmill, and I ran a couple miles and took a shower, went to sleep. I got 5 hours of sleep because I had an appointment at 10 a.m. the next morning. And I felt great because I was up, I did a lot of work. I got my workout in that I wanted to do that night, and I made my appointment on time, and I was very well rested because going for a run tired me out, and I slept like a fucking baby. And even though I got 5 hours of sleep, I felt amazing the next day. It's just it's daily discipline, dude. You have to discipline yourself. Again, what pain am I going to experience if I don't do what I know I need to do right now? And what pleasure am I going to gain if I do take the action I know I need to take? And so if you're trying to figure out your purpose in life, if you're already know what it is, but you're struggling like this guy is, or you're doing really well and you think you may want to do something else, and you'd like to talk to me about that to help you strategize and put a plan together so you can have a nice, smooth transition, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. And if you haven't read my second book, Mastering Yourself, where I go in depth and in detail about these things, you can go to understandingrelationships.com. Just click on the little email sign-up box, put your name and your email in there, press submit. As soon as you hit submit, you'll be reading it on my website. And you can also read 3% Man, my first book, totally for free there as well. And again, if you'd like to talk to me personally, you can book a coaching session by clicking the products tab at the top of your screen on any page. And until next time, I will talk to you soon.